you really have to think through all the different potential scenarios. Hindsight is going to bite you in the ass for unknown scenario D is actually going to empower you to make the right decision when that time comes and talk about how to build automations. So sorry to interrupt myself and you and I on this adventure to learn something new, but I just needed to stop us for a second and say, if you love this content and if you found it helpful, I have an entire collection of awesome stuff that if you stick around to the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly how to gain access to that. It's basically just stuff I can't share on YouTube. There's a ton of free asset downloads as well as some thought exercises to help you optimize your Salesforce CRM. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sales to the Force. So this is actually going to be a 3-part video series, and that is because automations are this would be way too long and also way too complicated to put it all in one video. So we are going to, as I say all the time, if you've listened to a few of my different videos, we work with the end in mind. So we're going to have 3 parts. The first one is going to be me defining what an automation is built of. There are 3 things that you must think of for building any automation. Once we understand what an automation is, then we get to define the requirements. And there's going to be 3 secrets that I'm going to reveal in that video about the keys to defining requirements for automations and what to avoid, because guess what? I think there's 2 very real ways of learning, what to do and what not to do. And I would also say what not to do are harder lessons learned, but they teach you more. So what to avoid as much as what to do. And then last but not least, how to actually test your automation, how to make sure that it's as bulletproof as it can possibly be, because I can't escape the whole aspect of hindsight being 2020. But if you follow these 3 videos, I can guarantee you are going to be in a much better place than if you don't. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. I guess before we do that, I should probably say, my name is Alyssa Schaefer. I am a senior Salesforce consultant. Obviously, I didn't start as a senior Salesforce consultant. The only reason I can sit here and talk to you about all this is because of all those years doing all the stuff that you're not supposed to do. So, I also would like to add my disclaimer that this is, I am a consultant that works for a company, but the videos I post on YouTube are separate from that company because I want to bring this information to the marketplace, not only for prospective Salesforce consultants. Like if this is a job that you want to do, there's no information on the internet about how to be a consultant. And the problem is, like, I can't be posting like my consulting videos online. Like I can't be helping people learn by exposing my clients' private information. And so the problem with becoming a Salesforce consultant is it does take a decade because you have to just sit there and listen to thousands and thousands and thousands of meetings in order to actually come out with something, in order to build up your toolbox. Like you got to start from scratch.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
So hoping to help you guys get there a little faster. And then from the other side, if you are a person who you're running a Salesforce org, you might be the system administrator. You might be the person who invested in Salesforce and you don't think you're getting the return for your buck, then you really need to listen to these videos because I help you understand what it's like to work with a consultant, what you actually get when you work with a Salesforce consultant that not only has seen this in one org, but 100. Think about it. A guy selling you a car that's only ever sold you Fords, he's going to be super knowledgeable on Fords, but he can only sell you a Ford. Why on earth would we think he could then just talk about Ferraris? So for me, being a Salesforce consultant with the amount of experience I have driven the Prius, I have driven the Camry, I have driven the Ford, I have driven the Bugatti. Oh yeah, that was really fun. But the point is that understanding what working with a Salesforce consultant is like is actually going to empower you to make the right decision when that time comes, because I have seen what it looks like when you work with the wrong Salesforce consultant, and that can waste tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I have seen the hundreds of thousands of dollars problem. It's not pretty. So with that being said, let's dive right in and talk about how to build automations. So in this first video, we're going to talk about what it really means, what an automation even is. So we're not going to look at like your particular circumstance. We're going to even take Salesforce out of it. I don't want to hear about objects. Don't even comment about fields, how you do this. No, this video is about understanding what an automation is, what are the parts and components of an automation, how to think about each part, so that in the next video, we can dive into defining requirements, which will then be about, okay, where to look for these things. So in this video in particular, we are only going to talk about like kind of the dictionary definition of what an automation is and how to even think about it. So with that, and I will also say, this video, you can be thinking through the lens of Salesforce, but you can also be applying this to Zapier. You can also be applying this to any integration. You can be applying this to any automation that you build, whether it's on Salesforce or any other platform. This is how you, this is automation, how you think about it. So with that being said, there are 3 components to an automation, and then we'll dive into each one and talk about what they mean. So these are like the big general broad categories. So for those of you out there that are thinking like, oh, like they're gonna fall in these buckets. So automation part 1. First is the trigger. So what is a trigger? I mean, I did another video, I'll link it. I forget what it's called at this point. I think it's best practice versus applied practice, but it talks about it was the I've made so many of these now. It is the workflow. It's what's a trigger versus what's a workflow. So a trigger though, and of course it sounds like a gun, and that's the analogy I used. So a trigger is the action, or so this could be manual or the action could be automated. But it is the action that is the trigger that causes the bullet to leave the gun. So a trigger, by definition, is exactly what it sounds like, but when we're thinking in terms of automation, it is just the cause of why something gets triggered. Oh my God. Wow, they thought about that for so long. So anyway, the first piece is trigger. The second piece is criteria. So when it comes to building an automation, you have to think about what qualifies or what disqualifies this automation from running. So for instance, I'm going to give you an example of, say you have an automation built for opportunities, right? So when an opportunity is closed won, so that would be the trigger, it being marked as closed won, then the criteria would say, okay, if it's this type of opportunity, then do that. If it's that type of opportunity, then do something else. Or if it's this other type of opportunity, don't do anything. Like, so criteria is about, okay, now that this has happened, I need you to behave this way or that way based on the criteria. So how do we determine what to do based on key aspects, and for each individual scenario, this doesn't have to be about sales. This could be about nonprofit donations. So for instance, if you want to, okay, so if it's this type of donation, do that. If it's that type of donation, do something else. Like, this doesn't have to be about sales. This could be about anything. So we're talking about automation as a whole, meaning all automation has a trigger. It's not going to do it by itself. Something's got to tell it, go. That's the trigger. The criteria. Okay, so now after that happens, I need, if it's this, then do that. If it's that, then do this other thing. Then you're going to define, okay, how do we determine which path to take once this happens? Now, of course, if you're just starting out and you have very simple business logic, this could be a 1-to-1-to-1. However, once you expand out, and we're going to, we'll talk about this in the second video about planning, thinking and building your automation, preparing with the end in mind kind of a deal. So this may be a very simple workflow. This. However, when your business has more than one potential outcome or more than one potential road to go down, more than one potential customer journey, more than one potential product, there's lots of different reasons why your criteria would have to be, pristine for your automation to not make your life a living hell on the other end. Because guess what? If you don't define your criteria correctly, then you're going to have automations running for things you're not actually wanting it to do. And I have some real horror stories on that end. So if you don't define your criteria extremely clearly, the computer, by definition, is just listening to what you told it to. So I always say this. I always say that automation, like a computer is really just going to do what you tell it to. So the way automation breaks down is the human element. So the actual human piece of what an automation does is really what breaks automation. If not just the human not thinking it all the way through, because a computer is just like 2 + 2 = 4. And sometimes humans are like, well, I think it's 5.5. And the computer's like 4. So that's exactly how automation works. So that is criteria. You have to make sure that you've clearly defined when, why, and where things should happen based on what your data looks like, which also brings us to data being clean. That could be a whole series in and of itself. So automation, though, we're focused. So trigger, boom, out of a gun. Why are we doing this? Criteria. Once the trigger has been pulled, how do we know which bullet to shoot? Kind of, or what are we aiming at? Like that kind of a thing. Third part of an automation is outcome. And that is the criteria. So for instance, I'm going to use one of my company's examples in that if an opportunity is marked closed won and it is contract type A, then outcome. I need you to build a contract for opportunities that are project-based, right? So I need you to do this, this, and this for scenario A's. So, but criteria. There's also scenario B, a subscription project. So when an opportunity is marked closed won, always the same trigger, criteria. It's scenario B. So the outcome, I need you to do things based on the fact that we are in scenario B, not scenario A, but triggered by the same action. Notice that. The criteria can totally change the outcome, but the trigger could be the same. So, and there could also be stacked trigger criterias, meaning when this and this happens, then do that. But that's getting a little complicated in the weeds. I'm not trying to confuse you. I just want to stick to how automation works. So I'm just also trying to prove a point that it can be simple or complex. There's layers. So for fundamental understanding, though, we need a trigger. Opportunity mark close won, then criteria. Scenario A, scenario B, or scenario C. That means that if it's this type, my favorite type, scenario C, then you need to do that outcome. So as you can see, it's not only really important for you to think through all the different components to an automation, but you really have to think through all the different potential scenarios, because I will tell you, hindsight is going to bite you in the ass for unknown scenario D. Like always with clients, what I find, and this was that horror story I'm literally thinking of, in that people think through automation forwards and they really don't think backwards. They don't think, okay, now, is this bulletproof? Like, sorry for all the gun analogies, but is this bulletproof? Meaning, does this apply? Is there only scenarios A, B, and C? Is there ever a scenario D? Can anyone think of a reason why we would not use scenario A, B, and C? So, with that being said, this is getting a little bit into the teasing of what we're going to do in the next video, which is the tips and tricks for how to design your automation requirements. But I hope this video has served you, and I hope that you understand a little bit more about how automation really even works, or the ideas behind it in general. This is an art, right? Like Van Gogh or whoever painted the fruit. Sorry, not my specialty. But whoever painted the fruit, he painted like a whole bunch of pictures of lots of different bowls of fruit. And I can tell you, every single automation that I've made is a different bowl of fruit. So, but understanding by taking this video and understanding what a bowl of fruit even is, you're going to be able to then look at the picture and go, that's a bowl of fruit. So, anyway, with that being said, I hope that this video has served you. If you like it, please click that button that's got this thumb. It's way up. And then turn on notifications. If you want to learn more about automation, data management, consulting, how to pick the right consultant, CRM design tips and tricks, I am going to keep posting on this channel because I am on a mission to, I used to call myself the wizard behind the curtain, and I am coming out from behind the curtain because I can tell you firsthand from having worked with clients for 10 years now, the most difficult part of my job is that, as a Salesforce consultant, is that the people that I'm consulting don't understand what I do. Like, fundamentally, they don't understand what I do. So I've also made a video called Consulting 101. I will link that in the description, or there's also a link right here. But the point is that whether you are a Salesforce consultant learning the ropes, or you're a business owner that wants to understand more about Salesforce and how it works, these videos apply to both of you because there is a huge gap between those two people, and we need to bridge that gap together. So I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed this, that you've learned something, and had a little fun while doing it. So I will see you on the next one, specifically part 2 of requirements. How do we then take what I just said and build a requirement for you? So I will see you on the next one. Hey there, thanks again for watching and joining me on my mission to create some blatantly honest Salesforce consulting content. I'm making this not only for aspiring Salesforce consultants that want to learn what it's like, but also somebody shopping around for a Salesforce consultant. If you want to know what to look for, then you can't miss out on these videos. And if you're also in the boat where you're like, what would it even be like to work with a Salesforce consultant? What could they even provide me? Then all of these videos are for you. And there are a ton of free videos on YouTube. But before you sign up to pay a consultant $30 to $100K to help you along your Salesforce journey, I highly recommend that you gain access to this free Salesforce Captain membership site so that you can be empowered with some information before you're put in that really tough decision that you're going to have to make. As promised, here are the instructions for how you gain access to this free site. I also would like to put in a disclaimer side note that because of the nature of email marketing nowadays, I've started to detest email. So I can promise you that the email you use to sign up for this membership site will only be used for receipts and also for you to be able to manage access to your membership site, like if you have to change your password or something like that. If you want to be notified about each new video that I post on YouTube, then go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know. In this membership site, though, there is a way to contact me directly. So the only way to be able to do that is to sign up for a seat in this site. But I have curated some questions. It's a form with some questions on it so that I can get the information I need in order to be able to help someone in this area of expertise. All you have to do is click the link in the description and also in the pinned comments. It is also it's everywhere. I'm not trying to hide it from you. So all you have to do is click that link, put in your preferred email. As stated, I promise that is your email for your stuff. I do not want to talk to you over email, but you can access me in this free membership site, and I'm able to share stuff in this site that I can't share on YouTube. For instance, like the no BS guide to a Salesforce CRM, or the mini course on how to think about automations, understanding automations, and other things along the lines of learning how to be a great system administrator, and not only that, but really how to get the bang for your buck with working with a Salesforce consultant, because I know I don't come cheap. So I would much rather help you know exactly what you need before I am tasked with the assignment of figuring it out. So I really enjoyed making all of these videos for you guys, and I hope that you've got some great value out of it. And I can't wait to see you in the Salesforce Captain membership site. See you there.